I'm Scott Munn, along with Tug Coward in the Warrior Alliance Network studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Veteran homelessness is an unacceptable problem in Georgia and around the USA. Open Doors Atlanta is an action-oriented program committed to making the connections to end veteran homelessness. Often families who need housing and property owners who need residence fail to connect successfully, and that's where Open Doors comes in. In fact, they're doing such a good job that they were named the Community Partner of the Year at the Warrior Alliance Veteran Impact Awards. So Tug and I are proud to put the spotlight on two key members of the Open Doors team today, Jennifer Yearwood, the Housing Support Coordinator, and JT Liddell, Head of Product and Technology, both from Open Doors Atlanta. Thank you both for what you do for our community, and welcome to the Warrior Alliance Network.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's so awesome to meet both of you guys, and I had the pleasure of meeting Jennifer at the Warrior Alliance live broadcast that we did over at Truist Park. How cool was that? That was the coolest setup ever, right?
It was really neat. I enjoyed myself a lot.
Yeah, that was just something we've never done before, and the Braves were so inviting to allow us to record a show there at Truist Park. JT, it was awesome. Maybe the next time we'll get you in there because
hopefully.
It was.
Sounds like I missed out.
It was just amazing. And Scott and I have done broadcasts from different places, but that one, I don't know.
That was special because
that ranks up there.
You know, the Braves have been they've been so supportive of the Warrior Alliance. They've let them have offices here at the Battery, and they're always bringing them in and then being a part of like Veterans Day.
Just
Memorial
look at
Day,
the celebrations.
Kind of
That's right.
But now it's like they're starting to invite the Warrior Alliance Network to come over and do stuff in the stadium before the show. It's amazing, and we really appreciate the Braves being supportive of not only the Warrior Alliance, but just they've always been so patriotic and supportive of our veterans. So let's get in. Tug, let's start with our friend Jennifer Yearwood, our new friend from the Braves game. She's the Housing Support Coordinator at Open Doors Atlanta, where she works directly with individuals and families experiencing or that are at risk of experiencing living unsheltered or homeless. With over 15 years of experience and several years focused specifically on veteran housing, Jennifer is known for bringing peer group knowledge, compassion, and dedication to her work. And she's really doing a great job over there with Open Doors Atlanta. And you got to say that, Jennifer. You told me before the show, you got to say Open Doors Atlanta, because what happens if you just say how's it work?
So often when I meet an agency or maybe a veteran that's looking for help and I tell them to visit our website, they'll either call or come back up to me and be like, wait, you guys are real estate? Because if you Google Open Doors, right, it leads you to that website. So, but if you put in Open Doors Atlanta, it'll pull us up.
You get the right spot.
We're a nonprofit. It shows our little blue door, and that's us.
Yeah, and the website is opendoorsatl.org. And in a way, Tug, they are in real estate, but real estate with compassion.
That's exactly right. Where's that passion come from for the mission that y'all are and so far behind and so in support of?
So I think for me, my passion comes from my own lived experience and my work over the years in the field, doing human services, social work type stuff. A lot of people, I think, have an idea in their head of what it might look like for someone to be homeless or at risk, and maybe they have a little bit of bias or, just things that they think of when they picture that type of person or family. And a lot of times it's not what you think. There's individuals and families that are, here in Metro Atlanta that are, just one paycheck away or one life event away from ending up unsheltered. And being in that type of situation, it can be extremely difficult to ask for help, especially if you've never experienced that before. You have pride, you worry what people will think. So I know that my passion comes from that, from knowing what that feels like and from understanding what it was like to have someone walk beside me through that journey. And Open Doors, as an agency, it's what we do. So, we were founded, by a real estate collaborative, investors, owners, our board members still have, our board is still made up of those type of people and individuals. And like you said in the introduction, it was very difficult before we began 13 years ago for owners, property managers, even private landlords to make a connection to the people that needed housing. It was a lot going on. People were, looking on maps and stuff, searching apartments, trying to find someone to connect them if they had a subsidy. And that's where we come in.
So how has that changed, do you feel like, in Atlanta over the last 15 years?
So that's a really big question. And I think the way that I look at it and the way from an Open Doors perspective is when we originally began, we saw a lot of maybe single parents or single family households that just needed a little help, and it was easy to connect them to nonprofit organizations. But after COVID and over the most recent years, we see a lot more individuals that are chronically homeless, a lot more families that are chronically homeless. They may not have what it takes or what they need to get into a unit, and that's where we come in. There's really been, over the past 2 years, a focus for us and other agencies on veteran homelessness. And so that's where we're digging in the most right now. We have the VA surge coming up. We're going to be doing part of a housing fair there, just trying to make sure that we're in all the right places where civilians and veterans are homeless, where we can make a difference.
I love how you have civilians and veterans on your team. You come from more of the public, like the service history, and here at home anyway, and then serving our country. We have JT Liddell here, who is a veteran, and you serve as the head of product technology, or head of product and technology, both of those divisions, I guess, at Open Doors Atlanta, where you drive growth through technology that creates real-world impact. So you're an Army veteran, and let's see, you're a leader with over a decade of experience, I read, delivering innovative solutions across defense, government, and commercial sectors. You served during the global war on terrorism for 7 years as a human intelligence collector for the defense industry. And JT, we thank you for your service,
Absolutely.
First of all. And as a veteran, what do you see as the transition, like challenges that face veterans that might lead to homelessness?
Yeah, I would say, as a combat veteran myself, spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, human intelligence collector, did a lot of good work over there, did a lot of high velocity operations, took a lot of teamwork, coordination, and you take a group of folks like that who were very good at their jobs, did it for a long time, did it efficiently, did it effectively, and you take them very rapidly out of this world that they lived in for a very long time, and you throw them into a whole new world. We weren't expecting such a drastic shift. We weren't expecting that, the type of support that we had when we were in the military would just immediately evaporate and go away. The folks that you had who were watching your back when you were in the service disappeared like this overnight. And I would say that's the biggest challenge, right? Is you're going into this unknown world that you don't really know how to navigate. There are a ton of resources out there in organizations like the Warrior Alliance, but it's so spread out. It's so, disjointed that it's really hard for folks to navigate. And that's why I really appreciate this organization, the Warrior Alliance, because they do a really good job of bringing all those together and giving, veterans, sort of a one-stop shop to get back on their feet.
Bridging that gap, it's super important. When you went from a military personnel to civilian, what was that experience like, and how did you avoid, because clearly you've avoided a lot of the pitfalls that other veterans may not?
Yeah, I mean, I think externally it's, you could probably say that. I would say I've been highly blessed and highly fortunate to have, navigated post-military life a lot better than, maybe some of my peers. So I would say that, having avoided a lot of these major pitfalls, for me, what that said is, I've been super fortunate. I could have taken a hard left turn in a lot of places. And that's why I'm sitting here today next to Jennifer, is because, there's a lot of folks who did take that hard left turn. And it's on me to, step in and get back and make sure these folks get back on their feet.
This is something I would ask both of you, and we'll start with Jennifer and then go to you, JT. Serving veterans in Atlanta, I mean, obviously you're helping with housing. What are some of the other things that y'all help with at Open Doors ATL?
So my team is somewhat unique. The housing support navigation team is the only team at Open Doors that can make direct contact with someone that needs help. Traditionally, the referral navigators and the property navigators, they work with nonprofits and landlords. One of the things that we do is after placement, if a veteran had some sort of life event, like maybe got in a car wreck and, couldn't work for a little while or needed to make those car repairs and it took away from their utilities or their rent money, Open Doors will step in and, bridge that gap, cover the expenses to the landlord and until the veteran is able to get back on their feet. Oftentimes, sometimes people just aren't sustainable, and they run into different life events. Maybe they end up in the hospital long term and they can't maintain their lease. We also incentivize our landlords. We give them up to $3,000 if they meet all the criteria for taking a risk on the individual or the family that we put in one of their units. And then we strive to refill that unit within 30 to 60 days.
Anything you'd like to add, JT?
Yeah, I just want to say I think she's selling herself a little bit short here. I love working with Jennifer, and I love the work that she does, specifically with veterans, because as we sort of talked about, homelessness it's not a housing problem, right? It's really about fully understanding who that individual is, fully understanding what their circumstances are. And a lot of times those circumstances that they're in isn't going to fall under some neat little bucket, some neat little vertical. And that's where Jennifer steps in and helps that individual across the board. So she's selling herself a little bit short.
It was kind of pointed out though, that's because that's a servant's heart right there, just not making it about you.
That's right. That's right.
And speaking of, why don't Jennifer, you tell us about JT and what does he do with product and technology? You can brag on him.
Yes. So thank you, JT. I do assess and work with the veterans for their 12 months, after placement from a whole person perspective. I focus on whole person wellness, the 8 dimensions of a person's life that to them, they choose what looks well and looks good for them. So I do that and connect them with agencies that focus on that. But for JT, our platform, we have a property locator app that's within our referral platform base. That is where nonprofits can come in and they can look. It's kind of puts you in the frame of mind of maybe Zillow.
Okay.
But ours is completely different because if someone has a HUD-VASH veteran voucher, maybe they have rapid rehousing, SSVF, the nonprofits can go in and search the map and they can filter out what subsidy they have, how many bedrooms, the zip code. JT built that.
Wow.
It was there, but it looked nothing like it does now. So he manages a team that makes sure that our technology is on point. We're also the fiscal agent for the Love Fund from Home Depot, and his team built us a dashboard under his guidance. He created the referral application for all of the nonprofits on the collaborative to come in and request this funding. And anytime that there's any type of glitch in it, I just email him. He fixes it immediately.
Dang, dude.
He runs
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he runs an amazing team. Anything we throw at him, we're like, hey, we want this to be on the platform. We want this to look this way.
Gotcha.
Immediately
awesome.
Gets it done. He's amazing.
That's so great.
It's changed the way that we work, made it easier on a daily basis for all of us. He's even developing right now where property managers and landlords can come onto our platform and communicate with us as well.
Wow.
So he works very hard for us and we love him.
JT, how'd you get all the experience in tech? Did that come from your military experience a little bit, or did you?
I would say working with different technology platforms definitely came. The military has an unlimited budget, so I got to work with some pretty cool technology applications and tools. But I would say, I didn't really dig into the world of software development, product development that I'm in right now until after the military. But I would say for this specific solution, obviously this organization, sort of called me. I consider this a calling, obviously, because I have a veteran background. But more importantly, going back to your point about, me externally looking like, I've been super successful, like post-military. The reason I was called to this organization is because, 10 years ago, I was in New York City. I was homeless myself.
Oh, wow.
And I was reaching out to organizations to find housing, and people either didn't pick up the phone or they told me for whatever reason I didn't qualify. And to her point, this application that we built allows you to go in, identify housing, filter based on whatever your scenario, your situation is, and find housing that applies. So based on my own lived experience similar to her, I said, I want to build this in a way where folks, no matter what their situation is, no matter what their background is, they can at least go into that platform, filter through based on their specific situation and find applicable housing. And if not, they've got Jennifer and the other team of folks they can talk to directly.
I find that so impressive because had you not told me that story, there's no way for me to know that, right?
Yep.
And it really does paint a picture of what else is being not utilized, the strengths, the challenges, or maybe the abilities is a better way to put it. The strengths and the abilities of other veterans that are so focused on, I've got to have a place to live and a place for my family, that they can't focus on the things that they're really good at, like you have. Like, what is going to waste that we don't even know, that they could change the world with software or whatever it is. It just seems like there is such a... That's why it's so important what y'all do. I admire what you do so much, Scott. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, you have to have that foundation of limiting your exposure to the risks of homelessness and stability and personal growth. That's kind of, it can happen to anybody, JT. And how do you guys? Obviously you know that, and I wonder, how do y'all help veterans to get more stability and personal growth and limit their exposure to the risks of homelessness? Do you come about it that way? Do you have programs to sort of help them figure out how to avoid homelessness in the first place?
So we do. That's kind of a two-part question. So when we do the funding from the Home Depot's Love Fund, we do offer prevention assistance. And part of that approval process is that the case manager that's working with the veteran to get that funding approved is they provide us a stability plan. So there's a housing stability plan. If there's a questionable rental history, or we see something in the application that maybe raises a red flag, or we're like, wait a minute, have you thought about this? How are you guys going to address this? So we do that. The housing support navigators, we do a strength-based assessment, look at some of the things that veterans are really good at when it comes to employment or community involvement. That's either at intake or maybe if they've ran into a life event. And if we don't connect them to the service ourselves, like an actual agency, then we are able to send them to the Warrior Alliance. I think I told you guys at the Braves game when they asked me, what's the Warrior Alliance? I'm like, you need to go on their website. I said, you remember 211? And they're like, yeah, I remember. That's Warrior Alliance for veterans. They're the 211. Whatever you need, if they don't have it, they're going to find it
for
you.
Great comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get a hold of them at thewarrioralliance.org, thewarrioralliance.org, and you can talk to Jennifer and JT at opendoorsatl.org. And Open Doors Atlanta was recognized by the Warrior Alliance as the Community Partner of the Year at the Veteran Impact Awards. Congratulations on that again.
Thank you.
What did that award mean to you both personally and as an organization?
Yeah, I'll lead. For me, I've been in the veteran support space for almost a decade now. Came here a couple years ago. When I started, I was really trying to do everything. Similar to the Warrior Alliance, I was trying to do everything. I was trying to boil the ocean. And then when I came across this organization, I was able to focus in on one very specific sort of pathway. So digging in for the last 2 years, doing the work, or at least helping support the folks who are out in the field doing the work, it meant, I remember when I was standing on the stage and, I was looking into the audience and I was reflecting back on when I first started this process, and I was like, wow, like I actually did what I set out to do. I actually found the people, I found my tribe who are also just as passionate, maybe not even more passionate than I am about helping solve this problem. So it was just really like, a surreal moment for me personally. And then from an organization standpoint, I was just like, we really brought this team of folks together who are super dedicated, super passionate, super intentional about solving this problem. So, I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
That's awesome. Yeah. What a great description. No, I see the the heart's flying up around. Let's talk about how y'all work through the Warrior Alliance to make the process happen.
So for me, the Warrior Alliance actually submits referrals to us. So they have a really great team. I work really close with Chantel, Roche, and Emily. And because we're on the same platform that we use, they can open a referral, ask for housing help with a veteran, and then they are met by our referral team. If they need Love Fund money, then I jump in and I handle that process all in the same space. If I, encounter a veteran at an event, or maybe they call or hit our QR code that JT created when they need help, and they don't quite fit our model, then I submit a referral to the Warrior Alliance within the same platform and make sure they get help.
Yeah, it's a great collaboration. I would imagine, because we've kind of gone through how you help veterans, the advice that you give veterans. Let's talk about the people that support y'all, because I think that is something that's huge when you're in a space like this, because it can be high stress. There's a lot of worry, probably taking phone calls outside of business hours. It's not a traditional way of living and doing work. JT, we'll start with you. How's the family piece work with you?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I would say, in this working in this space, it's easy to get caught up in, taking those late night phone calls. I'm in technology, so if something breaks, it doesn't matter if it's 2:00 in the morning or 2:00 in the afternoon. I've got to be there to support it and keep it up and running. So for me, it's been about balance, and obviously, I want to support the folks I'm doing from a professional standpoint, but also making sure I'm not letting the ball drop in other areas. So pretty loaded questions. I mean, I'll pass that back to Jennifer.
Family for you, how do they support you? How do you support them? How does all that puzzle work together?
Well, like you said, it can be high stress. If one of my veterans goes into crisis, it's very hard not to emotionally and mentally go into crisis with them, because I want to solve the problem immediately. I don't want you to go through this any longer than you have to. From the family side, I have 15-year-old twin girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I spend a lot of intentional time doing things with them, even if it's only an hour at the end of my workday. Everything goes off. I have really great support from my parents. I can pick up the phone and call my mom or dad at any time of the day and look, man, I'm going through this. I'm upset. What do you think I should do? And as a person with, just like JT, lived experience from being homeless, also a person in long-term recovery, I have a really wide, expansive support network in that area. There's a strong recovery community here in Atlanta, and so I lean on them. And I'm also a big fan of self-care, so I learned about it, I practice it, I make sure.
I wanted to ask you guys, I think that's great, and you have to, but you want to help others, and you may be in the car with the family anywhere in Atlanta, and you see that cardboard sign and those fellows that are at the exit everywhere, and it says homeless veteran. They wrote it with a magic marker, and it says homeless veteran. Please help. And what would you guys say to anyone listening? What should they do in that moment? They want to help. How could they help those guys best?
You're talking about in the moment, or just in general?
Well, maybe a little of both. What would you say? Because I never know what to do. I never know if I'm doing the right thing by giving them $5, or if I need to talk to them, pray with them, stop,
direct them to y'all.
Because they don't have internet access a lot of times. They can't go to your website. How do we get a hold of them? How do we reach out? How do you guys do it?
Well, I can speak on that a little bit. So for me, I've always made it a point, and a lot of people that I know and work with have kind of they call it a gift bag in their car. So you keep a little box with them in there. It has some hygiene items, maybe $5, maybe not money, maybe a gift card, to get some food or something. And then it also has a list of resources on it. So maybe not the websites per se would be helpful for those individuals that are outside, but it does have addresses and steps to what you can do. Because like JT said, for a veteran, there's a lot of services available, but within the housing ecosystem, they can be very hard to navigate and understand, this is who I am, this is what I qualify for, this is what I should do. One of the best places to start for homeless vets is Fort McPherson. they can get a lot of help from there.
Okay.
And I'll take that from a different angle. You know, as I said earlier, when I first got into this space, I was sort of boiling the ocean, right? I was trying to like help everywhere in every single sort of kind of way. And what I've sort of evolved into, which is why I'm sitting here right now, is, you know, I think you should, as an individual, follow your individual calling, your individual purpose. So the way I contribute now is with the work that I do today, right? And I'm very intentional about that, and I'm very focused on that. And that's how I, you know, eventually that has downstream impacts, and it gets to that person who's holding up that sign or having struggles. So instead of trying to like, every time I see something where there's a problem and trying to jump in, I say, okay, I'm going to put whatever energy I was going to put into that. I'm going to make sure this platform is up and running 24/7. I'm going to make sure we modernize it how it's supposed to be modernized. I'm going to make sure when Jennifer reaches out to me, I try to support her, you know, as best as possible. So that's the approach I've taken, instead of trying to like solve every single problem that comes my way.
Smart, man. It's a smart way of handling it. Thank y'all for what you do. Thank you for caring about our veterans and their families, and taking care of one another the way you do. You can tell there's a special relationship with the work y'all do together, and you know, you can tell your family. You know, it's very clear, and that's awesome. Thank you for taking the time to tell folks about it today on the Warrior Alliance Network.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you for
sir. God
having
bless
us.
you.
It's great to meet you guys.